Do you find saying no difficult sometimes? Well, I've got good news and bad news. The bad news is it might be awkward, but it's necessary. The good news is that saying no is a big part of better mental health, and there's a way to learn how to do it so that you can be more assertive. So let's talk about mental health. Hello and welcome, I'm Jeremy Godwin and I share simple ideas for better mental health here every Wednesday and on the Let's Talk About Mental Health podcast every Sunday. This week I'm talking about saying no for better mental health. So the thing about saying no is, let's just call it what it is. It can feel really awkward for a lot of us. It requires us to be assertive, which is something I talked about in the podcast back in episode 45. And when it comes to saying no, we might not want to seem rude, or we may just be really uncomfortable with potential confrontation. But the thing is that if you say yes to everything, you will quickly find yourself exhausted. There are so many hours in the day maximum, and there are only so many things that you can potentially do or say yes to. And often when people or things are competing for our time and our attention, it really can feel challenging when we know that we have to say no, but we almost feel obligated or we feel rude if we don't say yes. Well, I'm going to be talking about a few different ways that you can get your head around saying no more often for better mental health and also to feel a little bit more comfortable. These aren't just quick fixes. These are things that will take you a little bit of time and effort. So really have a think through this stuff that I'm talking about today. Let's start with number one, which is actually a broad mindset thing, and it's about accepting that sometimes you just have to say no. Like I said before, you only have so much time available in the day, and I hate to break it to you, but you are not magic and you cannot be in 15 places at once. When you say yes to lots of different things, what it does is it creates competition for your attention. And that's a real challenge, because giving your full focus and attention to one task or focus at a time, really, instead of juggling, that actually leads you to much higher quality outcomes. And it leads to better outcomes. So the thing there is that, sometimes people might be pushy about taking your time or wanting your time, but you need to think about what is more important to you. Is it about having that sense of peace of mind and also high quality in what you do? Or is it about trying to juggle 55 things at once? Because if you are doing a lot of juggling, I guarantee you that not every single one of those items is going to be done to a high standard. So leading to my second point, which is to really understand what your priorities are in general. You need to really think about what matters most to you in life and then make decisions accordingly. So for example, if your family is more of a priority than work, but you are being asked to work 6 or 7 days a week, something is out of alignment in terms of your priorities and what's going on. And so therefore you need to learn how to say no. You need to know what your priorities are, and you need to be able to make decisions and stick to things accordingly. So really take the time to understand what matters most to you, and anything that's outside of that, say no. Leading on from that, my next point is, with other people, set clear boundaries. Now, boundaries is a very big conversation. It's something that I explored in episode 53 of the podcast. Again, it's down in the description, linked below. And I will also be looking at some videos around boundaries in an upcoming episode further down the track for this show. You need to set clear boundaries. If you don't set boundaries, if you don't say what you will and will not accept with other people, then you can potentially find yourself being pushed into a corner, being pressured to say yes to things that you should be saying no to. So again, this does come back a lot to understanding your priorities and making sure that those are the foundation of everything that you do or don't do. But then it's also about being really clear with yourself and what you will and will not accept. Be very clear with people in your life about what it is that you will and will not accept. Because having those conversations beforehand in a non-confrontational, calm way makes it so much easier to say no when you do need to say no. That actually leads me to my next point, which is with yourself. Set clear boundaries. And so what I mean by that is you can set boundaries with other people all you like, but everything starts with you. I know for me that if I check emails on the weekend or after hours, that it's very easy to get sucked into a vortex of thinking about work. And that takes away from my rest and relaxation time. It takes away from my home time, my time with my partner. And it eats into my personal time. For you, you need to understand what are your own boundaries with yourself. What will you accept and what won't you accept? And make decisions accordingly. Nobody can do that but you. It's very much about how you actually look after yourself and what your own needs are. Moving on to my 5th point. If people are pushy about your time, manage that. So this is an extension of the boundaries piece, and I'm saying this because it's one thing to set clear boundaries, but it's another thing to actually maintain clear boundaries. So here's the thing. You set boundaries with people in your personal life and at your work and all of these different parts of your life. What do you do then if somebody actually breaches one of those boundaries? You either let them, which sends them a very clear message to say, hey, it's fine, you can just walk all over me and do whatever you want, or you have a conversation with them and address the fact that your boundaries have been breached. You need to be very, very clear. If people are being pushy about your time, say no. If they're continuing to be pushy, call them out for it. Some people do things because they don't think about what they're doing, and other people do things because whether they realize it or not, they're trying to take advantage of your time or your kindness or whatever. I believe in the best in people, and I try to bring that to everything that I do, but sometimes people will take advantage of that, and that's not about you, that's about them, and that just means that you set your boundaries, reinforce them, and let them go on their way. Let's move on. I've got a bonus point to share. Surprise! And it is a broad point about saying no. Be kind. When you're honest and direct with people in a respectful way, it is actually much kinder than beating around the bush. You know, I talk in the podcast and hear often about do no harm, be kind, and give more than you take as being the foundations of good mental health and well-being. Because when you do those things with yourself, you are setting yourself up for success. And when you do those things with other people, you are creating a more positive world around you. And what you put out comes back to you. I say that at the end of every episode of the podcast. So be kind when you are saying no. Don't tolerate shit. Like I said before, if you're having to say no repeatedly, call it out. But you can say no in a way that is kind. For example, simply saying, thank you for the opportunity. However, I'm not in a position to accept that. That's it. You don't need to provide an explanation. You don't need to say anything more other than no. I do think saying something more than just the word no is kind of helpful though, because most people you just say no to and they'll go, what the hell? So say a little bit more than no by all means, but just bear in mind, you don't owe anybody an explanation. And as long as you are doing no harm, being kind and giving more than you take, really just manage your boundaries accordingly and be kind to yourself as well. That's it for this week. Let me know what you thought in the comments below, and if you made it all the way to the end of this video, leave me an X emoji in the comments below. And well, obviously because it's about saying no, isn't it? Watch this video next for what to do when you feel completely overwhelmed, and subscribe to my channel for more simple ideas for better mental health every Wednesday. And catch the Let's Talk About Mental Health podcast every Sunday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. Thanks so much for joining me today. Take care and talk to you next time.